This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have one of our founders and portfolio company CEOs, Ryan Drummond, coming back from the Athlete book. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. And I just want to say congratulations on just grinding on this podcast. I mean, it's a feat to get to how many podcasts you guys have produced, because I know from, personally what it's like to keep one of these things going. And I am excited to say that I am a 3-time guest. That's a badge of honor. So thank you for having me.
If you were gamified in the Athlete book, you would have you'd be like royalty at this point.
Yeah.
But nothing like a pandemic to get you to talk to people, and record it. Well, look, we got involved with you. Well, we've known you probably for 2 years now, got involved about 18 months ago. And like any good entrepreneur and good startup, you kind of go down a path and then you figure out, hey, there's like a couple of interesting forks in the road. And I actually get to where the treasure is, almost like a maze. So congrats on where you're at. Why don't you give everyone an update on kind of where we started and where we are?
Yeah. It's just, to your point, it's been like pivot and move, go forward. And we've definitely gotten thrown some curveballs along the way. But, the original mission of what the Athlete book is still the same, trying to help an athlete get a job at the simplest form. But then it was like, well, it's not just good enough to just get a job. They should be moving towards a passion that's going to provide them security. And how do you best do that? And it started out with, early on with like career fair events, and it's just evolved. After you guys came in and became invested partners, we had the capital and the resources to build what would be called a traditional learning management system that focuses on professional development, with the idea that one thing college athletes don't have a lot of, and one thing campus recruiters don't have a lot of, and one thing that professionals like yourself don't have a lot of is time. We don't have a lot of time. So how do we capture and bottle up the message of somebody who's passionate about what they do? And I'd say from a professional perspective, to paint a picture of what their world is like and where the opportunity exists. And so what we ultimately ended up doing was working with the employer brands that we were working with to capture these stories and cut, even if it's a Zoom call like this, capturing the voice of the opportunity, the landscape that's available, and then cutting that MP4 content up into 2 to 5 minute videos, putting it into our learning management system, and then attributing points to anything that the athlete did. So when the athlete comes into the Athlete book, we let them know this is an experience, and get to the Athlete book's base camp. Because in base camp, that's where you're going to get all your resources. It's where you're going to be able to access our partnerships, our event partners. It's where you're going to be able to go to events and meet real people that actually have positions and are actually able to mentor. And we were able to build that with your help. It's been awesome. We've had when we first started this journey, we lost our CTO at 34 years old. He died. And it was just like, oh my God, what do we do now? A lot of the software was lost, and some of the intellectual capital hadn't been, that we spent time on during strategy meetings, was just gone, and so it was a horrible thing from an emotional perspective. But then eventually, it's like, all right, well, the mission is still the same. We still have to get this done. And how do we get it done? And so we got the right CTO and was able to build that experience that I just talked about. And then it was the next thing. It was like thinking about the reality of the situation is that a lot of times athletes, while we know they have grit and while we know that they have a lot to offer the professional world, they don't realize in the time how important it is to think about what their future is going to behold, because they're so focused on in the moment, getting through the week. 80 hours a week between school and sports doesn't leave a lot of time to go to career services and think about your career. And so what we did was we realized that with this point-based system of consuming content messages from people that are passionate about what they do, well, if we calculate that on behalf of the schools, the universities, the professional teams. And we create an on average points per leaderboard for every team in the athletic department. Well, what that does is it puts the coaches now on the map of saying, hey, this is important. You know, what your athletes do when they're done here is important. And nobody wants to be on the bottom of a leaderboard. Yeah. And so it's funny because we first test piloted this out at Morgan State, which is an HBCU school in Baltimore, just about an hour south from our headquartered office. And the first time we sent a leaderboard, the football team was on the second to last team. And Coach Wheatley, who played for the Giants, who I grew up, watching. I remember him. Yeah. Yeah. He's the head coach. He was pissed. He's like, I don't want to be on the bottom of the leaderboard. This is a bad look. And he said to his football team, he said, guys, if you don't care about your future, just write me a note. We won't say anything. Just say in the note, I don't care about my future. Don't bother me about this. Of course, none of the athletes are going to do it. Right. And what, you have athletes that fall into different buckets. It's like they either know exactly what they want to do when they're done. They have some idea or they have no idea. And it doesn't matter which bucket you fall in. Every athlete that's committed to play, sports at the college level cares how coach perceives them. They care if they have their feet on the field come game day. Right. Sure. And so now we're going to measure speed, strength, and GPA, but we're also going to measure how many times you're getting on this thing, the athlete book, and exploring. And again, that's why we make the content 2 to 5 minutes long. So if you have your ice in your hamstring, you can get points. And every week we send that team coach's leaderboard, but also the leaderboard per team. So go ahead.
No, when we started, the idea was, let's do virtual events because it's a time savings and we couldn't get the athletes to show up and it wasn't a great use of time for the campus recruiters. From COVID, it seems like everything's accelerated probably in career recruiting, probably 3 to 5 years, I'd say. Would Definitely. You kind of calibrate that as like, this is the way things are going to go right now? And, and that the in-person will be additive or down the road versus up front?
Well, it's definitely accelerated everything. And now it's like, creating these virtual forums allows the recruiter to actually do some teaching. And I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I just, when we started, we were thinking about, okay, how many groups are going to get on board here? And basically use this as a substitute to going down to college campuses and actually accessing the athletes remotely. Now I feel like you're accessing all the athletes remotely because there isn't the ability to go to campus. And also these kids now, because you gamified it, are now fully prepared for an interview. Maybe talk about like the Amazon badge that you guys set up and how that kind of pre-qualifies people.
Well, Amazon was such a great use case because we had been doing, even before you and I, before ISQ got involved, we were doing virtual career fairs. But then one of the campus recruiters came to me and said, oftentimes these athletes, because they don't have a lot of time, they apply, they have the interview, but they have no idea anything about the organization or what the role was. And so putting that teaching first. So now because we can take that message and gamify it, after each time they watch a 2-minute video on, let's say, how Amazon does behavioral based interviewing or whatever the case is, we pop up a little box that has a GIF of maybe somebody scoring a touchdown. And it says, hey, congratulations, you just earned punch points. Would you, bonus questions below. Are you interested in a job at Amazon? Because they're competing. You may have a kid that's wants to go pre-med. He's like, no, I'm just competing. So they are indicating now if they're interested or not. So now if they apply, because also they have a link to apply after these little mini videos, we're able to go back to Amazon and say, here's your group of candidates. They're athletes. You were looking for athletes. They're leaders because they're, captains of the team, or they had the initiative to be a Division I athlete, whatever the case may be. And they're informed and they've indicated they're interested. Like they've gone through all of your content and then they've done your retention questions. So they know now, like that's a prime candidate who is ready to go. That's someone who you can put right into the interview process. And it's been great. And so then there was like another pivot that kind of happened, which was how we looked at events, because we had built this, one of a kind professional development gamification system that helps, educate athletes on employer opportunity or career tracks that they may want to go into. How do we get it out there? And so we came across this event platform, which was a really nice alternative to Zoom. Zoom's great when you're doing a presentation. It's great for doing a podcast like this, catching up with loved ones, but like it's not the best when you want to do peer-to-peer networking or any kind of like engagement event, right? So we found this platform that has just been exploding. It's called Remo, and we've fully integrated with it so that it's synced into our gamification engine. And then we created an event partnership program. Like you guys are going to be doing an industry event March 17th, yep. Right? Yep. 12 p.m. EST. And that's going to be an opportunity for you all to bring the industry together. And while 90% of the people at that industry event will be peer-to-peer, in the health, active, lifestyle, outdoor industry, we reserve 10% of the seats for athletes who have gone through the Halo course and have indicated that they're interested in going into this industry sector to make contacts, absorb the language. And those events usually are either, networking plus industry panel or featured guest. And then in the room, it's actually like in a virtual event hall. There's tables, different seat configurations, and all along the room are these electronic billboards. So if you click on the billboard, you can either watch a video or see an image with a call to action link that can open up in another tab. So there's a lot of sponsorship opportunities. And what we say to our event partners is come on in. I mean, the Remo platform is pretty costly. I mean, for Zoom, I think I just paid like $14 a month. Right. And I have this experience. I mean, with the Remo platform, it is a little bit, you're getting closer to that, 10K or between 5 and 10K, depending on your package. So it's a larger commitment. And so what we've done is we partner up with our partners and we share in the sponsorship revenue. And if anybody from their event purchases a license on the Athlete Book software, they're an affiliate. So they earn 20% in perpetuity.
Gotcha. So when you take a look at someone, let's take a health club chain as an example. They're getting their bricks and mortar locations back open. They're going to go and hire personal trainers, general managers, district managers. Some of them are conditioned to put ads up on Indeed. They put ads up on Craigslist. Talk through all the time efficiencies, the ability to see what these kids have done, not only in school, but, on the field. And why they're such a great fit for the Halo sector specifically versus tearing through thousands of resumes when you don't have any idea except what's on the screen of who this person is. Yeah.
Well, I think there's two things. It's one, it's given the employer the ability to really moreover in short doses. It's like a combination of short content and long form, tell the story of what they're looking for. And naturally, if a candidate likes the first 2-minute video, they're going to go to the next one and they're going to go to the next one until they really understand what it is that they're looking for. So one, it puts the education about the company and the culture ahead of the application link, with the application link ever present after those videos. So that's the first thing. Other job boards, well, we're not a job board necessarily, even though we're building that functionality out. It's like teach and recruit. And then on the other side of it, when an athlete comes into our ecosystem, the first thing they do is they take a career discovery assessment, breaks down their traits and suggests like different industries that they should be looking into based off of their personality type. And so I think, just being able to align, interest and story of company, what happens is you get a relevant match. I mean, everybody has that experience if they ever run a business of putting up a job posting and getting like 500 applicants when only like 5% are a good fit. And now you have to do the needle in the haystack. Like that's just not efficient.
What kind of intel does the employer or prospective employer get when they, when either before they interview or after the interview? I've seen some CSV files that you've shown me as samples.
Yeah, well, there's a number of ways that an employer can get involved with us, right? And so down the pipeline, some of what I'm saying is kind of still in production now, but right now, I mean, they're able to see the typical candidate data. So when you apply for a job, we capture that when they come into the platform, if they're coming in through the athlete book. So they see that stuff, which is year of graduation, major, school, sport, cultural orientation, if they identify, gender orientation, like that stuff is there. And then what happens is the athlete will have the ability to toggle whether they want to share their career discovery assessment results with the employer. Right now, that's not available, but that's coming in, probably this quarter. The employer's also going to be able to see the user actions. So what has this candidate been interested in, right? Like they went to these 3 different events. They went to a sales workshop. They went to a networking event. Then they went to the Halo event 3 times, so they'll see just through user actions if they want to see that type of stuff. And then they'll also see the badges they earn. You mentioned, I forgot to mention, but like the Amazon badge. Well, when an employer puts up an information session that's links to all their jobs and an athlete goes through that or a candidate goes through that, they can search by people that have gone through their course content base. I say course content, but you go through some of these things in like 10 minutes. And that's an indicator that they've gone through all that type of stuff. So it's the user data, applicant data, and the personality data ultimately is what they would be looking at. Oh, one other thing. In the virtual events, and we're building this out more also on the platform, is conversational data. So how they're interacting with these chatbots. So when they go watch a video and they indicate that they're interested in a role, we can set up a like branch logic conversation that captures all that data into a CSV as well. And they're able to search off of that stuff.
When you think about how things have changed over the last year from focus to, very sincere and very deep focus on diversity and inclusion. And you also think about the budgets of the schools and universities to allocate towards career development and coaching. A number of universities have cut some of their secondary sports programs. Obviously, they're not bringing in the stadium revenue, and they're making some really difficult discussions. So what are some of the hard conversations you've had, and for the university athletic directors that are listening to this, say, hey, look, if you got to make those cuts, which we hate to see, like we are a substitute. And we can make sure your kids get a job, which at the end of the day, I think someone's going to say, okay, what was your record? What was your graduation rate? And how many of your kids got jobs? Like other than that, it's really what their GPA is not as relevant as did they get a job, because it's apples and oranges. Like I've accomplished the goal, which is to find something to do.
First of all, what I realized, and even before the pandemic, it's like selling in any kind of software as a service or any kind of big bulks offering to an athletic department for career development is hard, because typically even pre-pandemic lion's share of the budget's probably not going to go to career services. Like they're going to have 1, maybe 2 resources that they're paying, I don't know, between $50,000 and $100,000 a year to manage the career development program for 300 to 600 students. It's not a good ratio. And so when you go and you're trying to sell that, it's like, that we just don't have the budget for that. And I'm realizing that early on. So one of the beautiful things about how we, construct our either career events or workshops or, networking events or alumni events that are going to help the student, explore and connect to opportunity, is that we take a partnership first approach. So if we feel as though the school has enough employer or brand partners that would support a career fair, they can work with us, and we agree up front that the athlete book's going to take a management fee, but it's going to take that management fee after the event, after we've produced revenue through sponsorship or employer partners. And we can sell anything from, an employer's 1-minute time on stage to that billboard to the a networking pass or a chatbot survey. So, and have a number of free spots where employers can come in as well. They love that because for a school that has a number of employer partners, our management fee may only be $900, but once that's met, we split all the revenue 50-50. And we do the same approach for people that run conferences or want to do, a business that wants to create a networking event. It's like, yes, you can pay us up front to manage that kind of an event, but you also have the option to partner with us where you don't have to put up that upfront of investment, and then you're only taking revenue in. So we've got a number of schools right now that are going through the compliance process of taking our contract up and down the chain. And so far, everybody that's looking at it really seems to like it because it's just creating win-win scenarios for everybody.
Yeah. So on that note of the win-win, what are some of the highlights over the last couple of months where, either you got the chills or you're like, wow, this is a great story, whether it's a employer that came in that didn't know about this and got a certain amount of prospects, or you heard a story of some athlete that, got the email, gamified it, his top score, and, give us a couple of stories.
Well, I think, and it's not so much of an athlete story at this point, but just seeing this model work, which was really interesting, was partnering up with Renaissance Search and Consulting. So I get on a Zoom call with this guy who was introduced to me through kind of like a PR company. And we were talking, and he's like, I went to University of Delaware. I was like, I went to University of Delaware. And he's like, yeah, then I after Delaware, I went to, I graduated. I played basketball there. I was like, I played lacrosse there. Oh my God. Yeah. Then I started my career at Tech Systems. I was like, I started my career at Tech Systems. So I'm like, oh, this guy, him and I are meant to be working with each other. His name's Herb Courtney. He's the CEO and founder of this company, Renaissance Search and Consulting. And what they focus on right now is, well, first, it's a minority-owned business focusing on equitable hiring practices. And, selling diversity and inclusion for on the athlete book side, sometimes for me, it's a little bit difficult because I don't know if you could see if you're watching this video, but I'm a big white guy. So, it sometimes could be a little bit tricky on promoting that. But ultimately what happened was, like, through their relationships, they became an event partner. They brought in panelists for that first senior women administrator event, which every athletic department after Title IX was designated in the 80s needed to designate a senior women administrator. And these are individuals who have, decision-making influence within the athletic department. Our first event, we had 93 SWAs come to the event, and we were able to share with them our philosophy on creating, gamification and accountability with the coaches. And for them, they hadn't had an association for that role type, which is a very important role type in the industry. And now this is becoming a monthly event. And through doing that, through solving that need of connecting this community, we have, I can't wait till my fourth time on the podcast, because there's a number of big name players that we are so close to finalizing partnership deals with that are, household names. And so it's really exciting, but I think like that to me kind of stands out as the best success stories since December.
That's awesome. So just give us a list, and I know most of them, but give our listeners here a list of some of the companies that are first movers in general and first movers using Athlete Book or beta testing this, because I think this is the next generation of career recruiting, and it's not post up a job, get applications, sift through them like that. That's going to be the past. This whole gamification, and give us a list of some of the groups that you're allowed to disclose. I like to say allowed to.
Right. Yeah. So Amazon has been an awesome partner, and we've now started to work slowly with other teams other than operations, moving into other areas of business for them. So that's kept us very busy. And then we've done some work with JP Morgan Chase. We did a little work with Tesla. We've done some work with Crunch and Crunch Fitness and Gold's Gym through your relationships and partnerships. And then really been it seems like financial services has been a key area for us. We've done some work with Securing Financial, Diamond State. They love the idea of hiring athletes and educating them up front of what that role in that industry is all about. We've done some work with Yelp, and now what's exciting is that we're also helping people that do workshops. You go around the country doing workshops, which I looked it up. There's roughly around 28,000 people that are professional workshop, businesses that they give workshops around the United States. COVID's been tough because now you're moving everything to Zoom. So now we're, working with Will Baggett, who does the executive image, and we're working with a few sales training companies to offer workshops on how to, whether it's how to network, how to interview, how to build a chat bot. There's all different types of workshop owners that are leveraging us now because they can have this live event, but then they could take that content, cut it up and put it into the learning management system and connect, employment opportunities off the back end of it.
Got it. So when you think about how many athletes you have access to or how many coaches you have access to, how do you answer that question? Because it's always a moving target and it's relevant by region or local, but how do you feel about the scope of what you've touched or can touch?
Yeah. So, if we need to get the broad message out to something that's very general and it can apply to everybody, we have the ability to reach out to 62,000 college coaches, within athletic administration that focus on career development and life skills. There's roughly around 3,000 individuals that hit in that category. But sometimes we're reaching out to like a narrow segment of, either a geographic region or a role type within athletics or a role type within coaching that we're able to hit. So we can segment that down pretty easily. When we first started, I think you and I were really excited about the idea of, touring and having regional reps. And I've been looking at going up and down the East Coast now. I just need to get out. I'm ready to, if the universities will have us, I'm ready to meet them face to face.
Yeah, in due course. When you think about one last question here before we kind of talk about the Halo event, when you think about companies and their requirements and the fact that they need to catch up on diversity and inclusion hiring, obviously they're not posting up job descriptions asking for a specific demographic, right? So can you kind of talk about for a minute to refresh people on how the system works where, I need 20 employees, I'm opening up a new satellite office in Atlanta and I come to you and I say, hey, this is kind of the demographic, spectrum that I would like to have. I'd like to have a broad, diversity in my new headquarter or satellite office there, how you guys actually go through and make sure you attract those teams and those candidates in order to accomplish that goal?
It's a multi-prong approach. Like one thing we want to focus on now as we start to mature and evolve as a software and as a company is like making sure that recruiters and employers are able to have the best experience possible on the site. So one, we can target because we ask cultural orientation when they onboard on as a user, right? So we can send targeted messages to whatever, cultural demographic that they've selected. But two, it's how we focus our partnerships around, so it's important that we are hosting Train the Trainer on diversity and inclusion because we're able to partner with, again, RSC. That Herb Courtney just finished, his D&I certificate from Cornell to be a certified, trainer consultant. Working with people like that are able to bring in the right groups. It's why we've also invested in sponsorships with Morgan State. Right now, we're partnering with an esports company that is running the collegiate esports national championships And it's like, yeah, we think about traditional sports, basketball, football, and baseball, but it's like esports is coming. I believe it's going to be a sanctioned NCAA sport eventually. And I bring up these sports because the HBCU, historically Black universities, they seem to be first movers in being really invested with esports. So it's another great way to get in front of talent from an employer perspective, or from a brand perspective, and so the Athlete Book, through our events, through our education, through our messaging, we want to be able to kind of notify, both talent and hire or employers of one another, and so it's a multi-pronged approach. And then the other thing is, we are now bringing on internal recruiters to the business as well. So I always think like software, the goal is for the Athlete Book software to go as far as possible, but eventually, there's an automation drop-off point where you need to have human-to-human connection, sure. Right? And so let's empower the right staffing partners to come on board, make use of the powerful technology that we have, access the database, be able to do search and content on the Athlete Book, but let them be the human-to-human contact, and we'll make a partnership on the placements on the back end. And then let's see if our own internal recruiters if that team can grow to really make those placements as well.
Yeah, it sounds great. Well, congrats on the progress. I think every early stage business is about, kind of bobbing and weaving and then finding out where the pain points are and addressing them. So the gamification of this, the fact that you're in the market, the right place, right time, and really helping people with their careers, and this is going to get scaled. So I think, this will be a good case study on, it is where we started, this is where we are, and then kind of turned into one of those, I don't have a better term, and I'm now a fitness guy, but it's kind of like the blooming onion from like the Outback.
Outback.
It really has too many calories, and I think it's deep fried, not light fried. But the point is, like, I feel like 2021 is kind of like the blossom of this. So
it certainly feels that way. And I think that
this is like playing a football game, and it's windy and it's snowy, and 2020 was not easy to get through.
Definitely a turning point was these events, right? Because we used to do these chat-based events, and while the event was happening, I was like monitoring the screen of how many recruiters were talking with athletes at the time. Like that really mattered. Like, but now with this new platform, it's allowing the human connection to happen and actual conversation. And then, putting them with those billboards, it's like, go off and explore whatever we've talked about here interests you the most.
Yeah.
And like, because you connected to these automatic conversations, after the event, it's like, bloop, you see where everybody's headed off to. So, it's like, I was very fortunate that I was able to do a TEDx talk this week. David, I'd love it if I could give you the link for this podcast on it. But the whole thing was talking about.
That's extra, bro. That's extra easy.
That's extra. All right. We'll pay. I'll give you a few more equity points on that.
Pro bono podcast, man. I think it's somebody advertising. You know what, Gallon, throw in the link. Okay,
all right, no problem. All right.
No, but it's the message. I feel like it's coming to fruition of, these athletes, they've got grit, but they don't necessarily know what they want to do. I didn't know what I want to do when I was done. Yeah. And it's like, but then you've got these, and I say in my TEDx talk, like I was listening to Kevin Hart, the comedian on Joe Rogan, and he was like, he has several interests. He's a professional. He knows how to produce things and all this other. And he's like, I've got information. I'm just going to share that so the next generation can take what I've done further, hopefully. And it's like, that really resonated with me. So if we can connect the high grit with the people that have passion and actually measure how frequently they're exploring these different passions, that's a game-changing thing. It's not just with athletics. Sure, athletics are there, but it's like, well, I see this eventually cloning to veterans and other subgroups. It's just if you're not happy with your job and what you're doing in life, well, then you're kind of in that position of being an athlete, not knowing what the hell they're going to do when they're done playing sports. It just means it's time to explore. And that's what this ecosystem's meant to be doing.
And what's interesting, guys? I asked somebody the other day who's in recruiting, and I said, are there more people that are qualified than qualified job opportunities, or more qualified job opportunities than people. And he said there's more qualified jobs that need to be filled. So it's really interesting that if you want to make a career change and you're skilled and you have grit and you're willing to go after it, the jobs are available. They're available. Yeah, they're available. So
it's like, I feel, you know, and a large part to you guys, like to being able to get out of JPMorgan Chase was a great company, but you know, if you're either an entrepreneur or if you're just not doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's just like, stop being miserable. You only get this one life, man. So, and if you want to do something else, you don't have the skills to do it, like start learning those skills in the time that you have and get the hell out of that spot, start moving forward step by step. And again, like, I think with like having opportunities to go and learn about these different events. I mean, I feel like the luckiest man on earth just because, you know, like esports interests me. And now all of a sudden I'm starting to understand the landscape because we're putting the panel together. I'm going to get to hear from these experts. Same thing with the Halo event.
Yeah.
The SWA event, you know, it's like, you can say you understand gender equality as a white male, but until you're forced to actually not talk and just listen to these successful women talk about how they reached success and the types of barriers and challenges they had to go through to get there. It's like, I didn't have to necessarily go through some of those challenges. It makes you understand a little bit more. So, you know, I can't encourage people enough to get involved with our events, whether create an event or just come to an event. And you don't have to be an athlete. You can just make connections on the platform. It doesn't even cost you anything.
Yeah.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
Yeah, great progress. We're looking forward to having our first Halo event with you. We want to put together a case study of like a 90-minute case study, if we could maybe have that for March as well. Where I'll proctor a Planet Fitness case study, and you can have any athletes that want to do that for points. Can jump in and get a feel for, I went to Harvard Business School. I'm not bragging, bro. I'm just reporting. I'll run the case study like a business school class to give people exposure to that. But keep up the good work, and look forward to doing these events with you. And for all of our Halo players out there, you know, if you want to hire the best, hit us up at theathletebook.com.
Come to the event March 17th too. Halo event March 17th. Obviously, after you watch the TEDx a few times, get those views up, you'll be able to also access the link there. And I was hoping that we publish this, because if this goes out live before the Super Bowl, I'll also send David a link. We've got it's a $10 raffle. We're partnering with the NFLPA and Fandium, which is a great platform to raise charitable efforts and donations. So if, for this event, as low as $10, you can be supporting the NFLPA and win 2 seats to the Super Bowl. I think the value of $7,500 plus flight and hotel, and they're going to have obviously limited capacity. So it'll be an experience to remember for sure.
About in 2 weeks, this Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Yeah,
we could turn this around quick, get it out there. Yep.
Yeah.
If not, we'll probably do it again next year. So
let's do it this year. All right, awesome, man. All right, thanks for checking in with us again. Yeah. Congrats on the 3-time Halo Talks guest.
First one ever.
I got to get a T-shirt.
Third quarter, bro.
I got my 3-time prospect badge.
I like that. I didn't know what you're doing.
I'm available for all podcasts now.
Well, you had some hand signals going or something. All right, 3-timer. All right, bro, we'll get this up. Good to see you. I'll talk to you later.
You guys are the best. Thanks.
Awesome. Love
Thanks, Ryan.
As we continue to build our Halo Talks email notification database, want to offer you a free $10 instant gift card from our friends at Promotion Vault. Also to show you how easy it is to offer your members and prospects and clients the ability to get desired actions out of them and reward them in real time. Go to halotalks.com, put your email address into the pop-up box, see how it works, get a free $10 gift card from us, and keep listening and making everybody great.